Greetings and welcome to episode 3 of Rough Around the Edges. It's a podcast brought to you by Roughneck Games. With me again for the third time, you have Michio with me, and we have Dane.
Hello.
Dan.
Hello.
And Jarv.
Hello.
So I think last time there was a lot of talk about tabletop games in general, but I think we need to talk kind of about one that was briefly mentioned in the portion where you talked about DMing D&D, since it's been, in and out as a big part of our lives, and it's huge.
I'm kind really not familiar with this.
Oh, Dungeons and Dragons.
Okay.
Formerly Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, after it was just Dungeons and Dragons, and now it's just Dungeons and Dragons again.
Are the dragons in the dungeons?
Sometimes, but they can come out.
Oh, great.
See, there's a lot of rules, so you can just do what you want.
No, every dungeon has a dragon.
Does it?
I mean, it's Dungeons
Depends.
in Dragons.
In dragons?
The dragon is the dungeon. You go inside.
The dungeons are inside.
Which
Magic School
You're
Bus
literally
fantasy version?
Exactly.
How many entrances?
Wouldn't that be a great Magic School Bus episode?
In a
Miss
dragon.
Frizzle, we're going to go straight up into this dragon.
This dragon's anus.
I would definitely go in anally because
Welcome to.
there's a lot less fury there.
It's the only way to guarantee
that's
you're
true.
not going to catch fire immediately.
Well, not guaranteed. Dragon has wings one night. It's
So
a
Dungeons
disaster.
and Dragons.
Yeah, so Dungeons and Dragons. It's
It's not Dungeons and Dragons.
Dungeons and Dragons.
And
It's a mainstay in tabletop gaming. So basically, we've started a long time ago. I mean, some of us can't even remember how we got started in D&D, but really how you, like, for instance, Dane, you DM'd a lot. How did you start in D&D?
Yeah, I remember this very vividly, and I think I was older than a lot of people. I was in high school, and I was in AP government class, and there were two people in front of me looking at a book. One of them was Joe.
Huh.
The other one was our friend Phil. And I said, "What are you guys doing? What are you guys looking at?" And Phil said, "Oh, nothing. It's just a game. You shouldn't worry about it." And then Joe said, "Oh no, he wants to know about it. This is right up his alley." So they showed me the book, and it was AD&D at the time, I believe.
Yeah, 2.0.
2.0. And I immediately got involved with that process.
And then took it over.
And yeah, I guess
Much
I
like
did.
Hero Quest with your father.
That's true.
I can control this.
And then I just read everything that I could get my hands on, and it was over from there. And
So
campaigns.
far from being uninterested in the player's handbook we were looking at, you ended up grossly overwhelmed.
Overly enamored
Yeah.
for a very long time, in the greatest way.
Somewhat similar. I remember Joe and Phil and a couple of his friends just coming over and then going upstairs and huddling around a table to play a game. And I was, of course, interested in what was going on. I think I was in like 8th grade or something at the time. And I went up there and just observed what they were doing, and it blew my mind because I was like, "Where's the board? Where's the figures that represent what you're like?" It was all like,
What are all these weird dice?
yeah, it was all just they didn't even have a grid or anything or any figures. That it was just all imagination, and it but the amount of rules and just how specific things were, and just the dice. I was like, I have not seen any of these kind of dice
More
except
than
for a
six
D6.
faces,
This is a
yeah.
buckyball.
Yeah,
Almost.
Is that 23 sides?
Almost. Yeah, it's not
Icosahedron,
20.
actually.
Yeah.
And threw me with the buckyball. So yeah, I remember, and I was just looking at these books, and I was like, oh my god, like these books are devoted to that. And the whole
Yeah.
time I was just annoying everybody with questions, and I was probably told to leave multiple times.
Probably.
But
The classic younger brother. Can I play?
yeah, it was totally that, and yeah, I did that all the time, and it was just like, I know this.
Forced to be a cleric. Heal us every time.
You're the
Yeah,
healer.
I remember the guy that was playing cleric. He loved cleric though.
Yeah.
And
You like that?
yeah,
He was forced into
and
love, yeah.
I don't think I got to actually. I don't think. Sorry,
He did.
I don't think I actually played it. Got my hands on it until until third edition later on, and then actually playing it, I was just so excited to be able to make up so many things about my character. And
no Thaco though.
What?
No Thaco. You
Yeah.
never had Thaco.
I don't think I don't think
No.
That's a shame.
That was
Yeah.
AD&D.
to hit armor class 0? Yeah, you never had that.
I may have had it. Oh, you know what? I was able to sit in when somebody had to leave and briefly play a character.
Learn how to use
Wow,
Thaco.
brutality of Thaco.
Yeah, but basically I was just a shell sitting there, and everybody was telling me just roll
this.
that. Yeah,
do
just
this
roll.
attack. It's a good way to learn, I guess. It's not as fun. But.
Yeah, overwhelming. Because it was in the middle.
And then when
of
you roll wrong, everyone's like, "Why'd you do that?"
yeah, it's like
You're like, I don't know what I did.
I don't know. It's called chance.
Yeah.
So I was also introduced by my older brother, but at a much younger age. I think I was probably in 6th grade, and similar to what you were talking about, how the kid brother always wants to play the game that his older brother's playing. So I hovered around them to the point where they would banish me from the room when they were playing. But the brief glimpses that I did get and that I understood at the time, I mean, it was everything that I wanted. And not just because my brother was playing it, but because it's just this fantasy in your head, and you get to live out the life of this heroic character, or hopefully heroic or roguish or whatever you want to do, you get to do. And you get to roll dice too, so that's always fun.
Yes.
So I got sucked in pretty quickly, but they really didn't let me play a whole lot, which was disappointing. But then later on when I grew up and met you guys and we started playing regularly, got a lot more of the material and I was ready for it more then, I think.
And we were much more welcoming of your younger brother, I think, than maybe
Yes.
your older brother's group was
Yeah.
with you.
Young,
I
middle school.
I think
Yeah, he was really young.
I've made a point to kind of try to take that approach.
Nice.
Because
Because you want to brainwash
not that my older brother's a bad guy or anything like that. He's a great guy, but he wanted to spend time with his friends without me.
Right.
And,
Yeah.
And for me, I'd rather share my friends. So take that, Derek.
Yeah.
We love you, Ben.
And that became a huge boon for us because, Ben was a huge addition
Yeah.
to the group at the time. So that was great.
He really filled
I'm
out the
glad
ranks.
you were open to that.
I think I started not much before you, Dane. So I was probably just learning the player's handbook when you saw me reading it. But there were a friend or two that I had very early on in high school I met that had played it, and I had no idea what it was, but they basically insisted, like, you should try this. I think you'd like it. So I did, and we split it. Actually, we added more friends and just basically convinced them all that they should play, even if they weren't all that interested. And we eventually had a group that that played and continued to play off and on through at least the rest of high school. So that was pretty good. And then added you in, obviously, shortly thereafter, kind of filled the ranks out and brought Jarvin and Jarv's younger brother, Ben. And
Dan joined the bunch.
and Dan. So, yeah, actually,
I'm in there somewhere.
you guys were a large part of the group that actually, I think it shifted because some of the early people we brought in, we probably stopped playing with as much later on in high school when they just weren't as interested, maybe.
They didn't make the cut.
They didn't make the cut. Their paladins were murderous, and
Oh my God!
Don't even.
No, you talking about Brew Shaver?
well, throw the name out, but yeah.
Good
But,
Lord.
Yeah, that was it. I
That-
remember that. You were
that
DM
was
for
a
that, right?
confrontation.
That was
Jarv? Yeah.
so frustrating.
You are immediately now not a paladin. What?
You
Yeah,
handled
you
that well,
can't be a
though, as a
paladin anymore.
DM.
It's how it
Like, you
works.
made that very clear.
Tried to murder him as quickly
Yeah,
as possible.
what you're doing is wrong.
Attempted murder.
That was
Because
that's
you
a
don't
good
like
memory.
you don't like the little how he's talking at you. That's not paladin.
Yeah.
I also brought in an outside friend, and he just as a like, hey, maybe you'll like this game, and he named his character Inuyasha, and I immediately regretted bringing him in because that's an anime character.
you go.
That's just
That's an
can't
original character name.
on the
It's
nose
not in the
use that.
spirit.
This isn't an MMO.
Yeah.
So what would you say, I guess, is, beyond the first experience, how you got into it, what's the most kind of memorable experience other than when you had to make somebody not a paladin as a DM?
I would say the one that sticks out the most in my mind was one of the few times that my brother did let me play with them, and it was funny because it taught me a lesson in how brutal and unforgiving D&D can be. and I'm almost certain they did it on purpose, but they let me roll a paladin. I can't remember if I actually rolled the requisite points for it or if they just made it for me, whichever. But our first combat experience, so I'm a paladin, and we didn't really have any frontline fighters, so I was up front, and you don't have a whole lot of life at the start of that game, that's for sure, regardless of what your class is. And I definitely got owned pretty quickly, and they couldn't get to me and save me, and I died in the first fight of the entire game.
Oh no!
And
Brutal.
Yeah, I don't.
And yet you
I
still played
suspect
it.
they did that to get rid of me, but
Not get out of the room.
but at the same time, I still enjoyed every second of it.
Yeah. That's brutal.
What was the question again?
So what would you say? I mean, like most memorable experience.
That's a tough one. There's some good ones. The most salient one is one of my more recent times playing. It was playing a campaign that you, Joe, were DMing. It was very recent. I had an idea for a character. It's a little cliche, but the way it ended up developing was really cool. Basically, I was a cleric, but I had amnesia, and it was just. Unfortunately, we were only able to play it briefly, but it was fun to play because it kind of made me have to actually start thinking about the more harder about role-playing decisions and how to do conversations. Basically, I appeared in front of the group as a naked man behind a building. And
Didn't know your own
Tarp.
name.
We called you Tarp.
You called me Tarp because
Because he had
you
a
in a
tarp
tarp?
to cover up.
yeah, I had to use a tarp to cover up my loins, but it was really cool because I only also knew a little bit of my own backstory. Like I had a bit of an idea, but it was going to be revealed to me as we went on. Like,
Right.
So Joe would just feed you.
he
Nuggets?
was feeding me information. Essentially, what was going on was, long story short, my character was actually, I believe, if I remember correctly, a really high level, like cleric in a huge kind of organization a long way away, and there was a need, and it was basically my two domains were essentially life and death. It was healing and death, and the god was basically kind of an arbiter of who lives and who dies. With a lot of depth to that aspect, it wasn't really black and white. And my talisman had like kind of an orb that would shift color from white to black.
Yeah, I think that's the only thing you had.
That was the only
You
thing
were
on me.
naked
It
except
was
for
wrapped. It was
your
like
necklace.
a piece of metal wrapped around my character's
Right,
arm,
around the arm.
and on the back of the hand was like this
The symbol of the god, I think.
yeah, the symbol of the god.
So I don't think it's that you were a high level because you were just a level 1 cleric. But that was kind of fun because you didn't really know at first that you were a cleric. You, I think, knew, but your
Right.
character didn't know. So you RP'd,
I
like
had
you
to
just-
RP my characters, not knowing
Reacted.
and reacting to impulses to destroy undead
Yeah,
because
that's
they
how
were
I remember it.
an abomination.
Yeah.
But I actually was. We had talked about it a little bit. Like I was, but I had to be stripped of my memory and ability and everything.
Right.
To be transported to this distant land to write.
Yeah, you were involved
A
in like
huge
the inner
problem.
workings of the world that we never even got to, obviously. But
Yeah.
Bummer.
there was some plans there.
And
I think everybody had an interesting plan, but I kind of liked
Yeah.
what we did with your character a lot.
That was super cool.
I came in late. I came in a little bit later, so I was able to kind of plan it, and you were able to tailor it to a world you had already started, and they'd already started
it's-
playing.
You don't know what happened. I can do whatever I want with your character.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
it may sound like I was taking responsibility off myself to create a history or something like that, but it was.
It's kind of more fun that way.
We did discuss a little bit of history, but I only knew a little bit, and then got to discover it as it went along. Which was cool.
So that was a fun one.
That was super fun. Just to weigh in on that, I still remember how crazy it was to deal with a character who didn't know who they were. So, like, I don't know if it was a whole Undead campaign that you
Yeah.
were planning, but one of our first encounters was Undead.
That was a necromancer. That's why I think.
And, yeah, I was a necromancer. So, we'd just walk up and, Jarv's doing his crazy, You were like a weird warlock sorcerer person.
You were
You weren't a
no,
warlock because it wasn't.
I
fifth
don't
edition.
You were
know
a
if I were
gnome.
part of this.
You
Was I?
definitely were.
Yeah, you were
like
the
an
little dirty
evil
gnome.
Yeah.
You were kind of like
Oh,
a roguish.
yeah.
You might have been dual class rogue spellcasting gnome or something like that.
Illusionist.
Yeah, illusionist.
Yeah.
And you're just running
Okay.
around being.
It's coming
crazy
back.
Yeah, you
and-
were kind of a rascal.
Memory unlocked.
Hey, there you go.
Yeah.
But suddenly Dan, like, he's pretty quiet because he doesn't know a lot, and
And his
he-
character's not
he's
in the
freaked
scene,
out,
really.
right?
Yeah.
And he just walks in. He's like, "There's undead in here," and everyone's like, "Oh yeah,
How do you know
who
that?
are you?"
Tarp?
Tarp, the guy
Tarp,
wearing
how do you
a
know,
tarp.
sir?
Tarp, you ain't in.
Yeah.
You waiting in this? You were naked 20 minutes
We
ago.
wrapped
And
you
it
in
made-
what was formerly covering a woodpile, and your name is Tarp.
And we made it. It made it really fun, I think, just from a player perspective, because every time you talked, it was worth listening because you were figuring it out while we were figuring it out. So
Right.
it made like a really cool.
It was.
very
It had
unique.
some meta things, like just
Yeah.
in terms of having interest as a person as well as having interest through your character. Because I remember like you played a monk that was essentially a farm boy and was just amazed at the world. And
Yeah.
so you were like, so we walk into this building, and I forget, like basically, I busted a window and like threw you in or something.
Yeah,
I can't remember.
and I like scurried in.
And then I jumped in and obliterated. I remember this. I obliterated a group of undead
it's like
with,
you
with,
turned
a,
them,
with a
right?
turn,
Yeah.
and it was the one where you destroy them, and like a good roll. And you were just like, "What the hell is going on?
What is
like,
Tarp
what
doing?
just happened?
Who are you, Tarp?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, that was fun.
I enjoyed it.
I have many memories. I'm gonna give some player memories and some DM moments. I think my player memory, one of the biggest ones, we were playing with a certain friend who I would imagine you'll recognize after I tell the story. And I had a tendency to roll halfling characters because I am a fan
Yeah.
of halflings.
That happens sometimes.
And our friend was the DM, and he did not tell me at all, as
Oh, God.
would be characteristic of him, that his whole world was strongly racist against halflings. So every time we went to any place, the first thing that would happen in any town, in any village, in any city was, well,
The town folk throw garbage at Dane.
Dane walks into the town and they all throw poop at him like he's a monkey, just as usual. And like that happened every single time. So I had to deal with this just,
It was hilarious.
how are you going to fight
the
with
first
poop all
time.
over you? And like it was just really, eventually it got a little
got
like
a
me,
little
just let
old.
me be the rogue man.
You try to pipe up, and no one's taking
Yeah.
you seriously because you're covered with poop.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it became. And he was very consistent with the poop thing, which is a testament to his DMing. But yeah, it was really, really weird and interesting. And there are many more, but I think my most vivid memories are from DM moments where you guys were playing. Like there was the one moment pretty early in a campaign that we had where Jarv, your character, was in love with some like elf maiden,
Oh, God.
and
I remember that.
somebody,
I got a big heart.
yeah, somebody,
So much love in me to spread
well,
around.
I don't remember why this was happening, but somebody teleported her into your bedroom as a drow or like some kind of maybe you weren't an elf and you hated elves. There was something about like you had this character thing that you didn't like somebody, so they teleported her in and then changed her to what you didn't like. And then you just started like berating her and being really angry about it. And then they took the
Playing
spell
your
away.
character's flaw, but
And it was your lover, your wife, and it was like a huge fallout disaster, which you may not have appreciated. But as the DM, I remember like, this is so weird. Like I never would have expected anyone to do that.
Yeah, that's left.
yeah, it was a
field.
random bit of role playing.
Yeah, it was weird.
That's
Do you
the
remember
beauty
that?
of Dungeons and Dragons.
It is.
Vaguely remember that.
Yeah.
That must have been.
That was,
one of the first ones. That
It was
we
Yeah,
did
that was.
together.
I
Yeah.
think that was like Ben's first time ever playing.
Okay.
Was that when
Yeah.
he was like a hobbit druid or something, or
Yeah,
a
sorry.
halfling druid?
I think so.
Hobbit druid. Fun.
Yeah, the Hobbit.
Mix it up.
That is nice though when the players play off each other and
It is,
and,
yeah.
and just develop
And terrorize
stories
the other
yeah,
person's
It's almost like an
characters.
episode of a show. Like that's something that would happen in an episode
Yeah.
of a show.
Yeah,
where-
the hijinks beyond. Let's just go, to the tavern and have a few
Yeah.
beers or something and
It
talk
definitely
about
made it
the
fun.
That's
quest.
fun too, though.
That is always fun, but it
that's super
escalates
fun.
from there sometimes if you've got a creative group and some interesting characters.
Sure.
The only other memory I would add, I mean, there are tons and they're all pretty good, but it was a battle that I enjoyed because I was trying to mess with everybody, and everybody handled it really well. And you guys at that time were kind of high level, higher-ish, and by high I mean like 6 or 7. But Joe, you were way higher, right?
yeah.
That was when you played that wizard, and it was like a weird
Rathazar.
experiment where you were a higher level than others.
Yep.
And you guys went into this throne room to confront the aide to the king, which you had found, the counselor to the king, which you had just found out was kind of an agent of the evil power. And he revealed himself, and he was also a pretty high level wizard, so it was good you were there because you guys were like level 7. It would have been a problem. And the first thing I had him do was reverse gravity,
I remember that.
and the whole room flipped. Right?
Yep.
And you had to bat on the ceiling. So you cast something like Spider Crawl.
Yep.
Right? And everybody else just grabbed onto things. I feel like somebody was
I feel like my whole main memory, one of the main ones I was gonna do is just being explained right now.
Oh, really? Yeah, I really remember that
Stored it
too.
up.
A water elemental came into play. I feel like somebody was a druid and did something animal,
Yeah,
turned into something animal.
So I'm gonna
deal
just
with
take
it.
that over now
Take it
and
over,
just
'cause that's
explain
the
it
last
from
one.
my perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was a higher level character, like a wizard. I was a level 14 wizard, I think when
that's
everyone
right.
else was 7, if I recall, and it was nobody knew that. Like we didn't know each other's levels, so I was mostly just phoning it in, using the lower level
Yeah.
spells and stuff. Taking a day off whenever we'd have battles. Although I think there were a couple hints that started to give it away. I think right before we got to that battle, we were at a coast and we were fighting something, and I cast like a really powerful water elemental
Oh, maybe that's the memory.
or something
I'm
like that.
thinking
I
of.
think. And then we got to that throne room, and that wizard and I there were other minions that it basically became a battle between the evil caster guy and my character, and then the other characters were fighting the other minions.
Yeah, that's right.
And he was doing like wall climb, and I was, doing spider climb, and we were fighting and throwing weird spells, and everyone else is like doing their fight, and like, what the frick is going on here?
Yeah.
And that was really fun
Yeah.
for me. But I mean, obviously, it's always fun to be a really cool character doing all kinds of weird stuff. But
Yeah.
So yeah, that was interesting.
I have one more memory just because it was just really cool, and my character almost died doing it, and it was the first battle of the game. Dane, you were DMing as usual, and I was playing a monk, and we started out in the middle of a massive battle during a war.
Oh, yeah.
And my character was up on a wall, but I was high enough level to have to be able to fall long distances.
Yeah.
And I jumped off the wall, just down into the high pitched battle, and I remember you were just looking at me like, because we were just starting out the game, and you were looking at me with like kind of hinting DM advice at me, like, you really want to do that? Are you sure?
Scary endeavor. Yeah.
And I ended up
Endless enemies.
with
Endless.
like single digit health at the end, but it was
But
just
took a bunch down and it looked awesome.
yeah, that was the main.
That was was that the Epic campaign where you were higher level to start? And
Yeah.
you were a bard. And
yeah,
it
I
was,
was a bard.
with Chris.
Yeah.
And he was that crazy. It was just the 3 of you, I feel.
Was it?
I think so.
It might have been. It might have been a side
Do
thing.
you remember that, Jared?
I was not part
No,
of
I
the
think
Epic
My
campaign,
friend
no.
Nate was
I
there.
think a lot of it
Oh,
was
okay.
played. Well, some of it was played remotely, like we'd play over event and voice over internet for
Right.
some of it.
Well, that was where Chris's character tossed a head, a decapitated
Oh,
head.
yeah.
And he was
loved.
He was
that
a
kind of-
high level barbarian, and I think he was somehow able to throw a head like a
well.
mile. or
He did all the
something
math on
ridiculous.
his strength check, and it was a mile. It was like a mile. It was
Yeah, and he rolled a
ridiculous.
really high DC check.
So
He didn't want to
tossed
be
it.
a Minotaur that time?
I don't think,
Oh,
I think that
that's
was not
right.
allowed.
with his
Oh,
gnome
yeah.
friend.
I
That's
I
when
wrote
he
on
rode
his
in his
shoulders.
backpack or something.
I wrote
I
on his
always get the
shoulder.
troublemakers.
Yeah, he would.
Can I
he
play
liked
Minotaur?
being
Sure.
Yeah, that was one where you probably should have said no, Chris, you
Yeah,
can't.
and Minotaur.
You
I'm
can't
just-
be this thing from this book you found somewhere on the internet.
Yeah, he likes.
I'm of the
he enjoys it.
mindset that you can be anything you want and I can adapt to it, but that was definitely
A little bit
mistake.
game breaking, but it was
Because
fun RP
it,
sense.
It was game breaking,
But
Yeah.
combat wise, it didn't play out.
it's not fun for anyone else when he's the only person killing everything.
Just
Well,
by walking up to them.
That battle, actually, I think there was a huge pitched battle going on. And we were, there was an army coming towards us, and we were trying to stop them from getting to a city or something like that. I don't remember, but
and
he
the thing
threw-
Dan was describing.
yeah, and he threw that head, and I think I was on a flying horse
Yeah,
flying
you were
over the battle
a bard.
invisibly, and casting this giant glamour thing that was like a huge dwarf
Casting.
army or something, and a
Yeah.
dragon flying over and
Oh,
freaking
right.
everybody out. I
Well,
don't know, we were pretty high
you
level.
went to go intercept reinforcements,
Right.
Who had siege weapons,
and I scared him off
yeah,
with crazy.
that was a crazy
apparitions.
campaign.
Yeah, it was
that was
weird.
high level story.
Yeah, I don't even remember that what you were doing because I was trying not to die from the stupid decisions I was making, but being awesome at the same time, taking out
that was
giant
fun.
groups.
Simultaneous.
It's fun to have powers right away.
It's fun to be
And
awesome.
not just swing. Well, I know we're jumping around here, but back to Jarv. I remember being excited about that too because it was the first time didn't you focus on a zombie apocalypse.
It was a zombie
scenario?
apocalypse scenario.
And that was early. This is like years and years ago.
Yeah.
a
Yes.
long time ago.
Yes, it was quite a bit ago.
Oh, that was exciting to think we could
Wrote
just slay zombies.
Quite a long intro and had background stories for everybody and just flamed out.
Didn't last
like
long.
it kinda
And there was,
has it.
does
and then there
happen.
was a
It happens.
minotaur.
and then the Minotaur got involved.
Chris
Fun.
flew too close to the sun on that.
There was speaking of paladins and going back to the paladins getting kicked out of being paladins out of their order kind of thing and losing their power because their god no longer backs them or something. There was one campaign, it might have actually been the one we were talking about where you got tricked with your girlfriend being an elf or something. It was, I think I was a character class that we just made up on the spot, which was like a dark paladin.
Yeah.
We just sort of made up our own, extra class, which is pretty interesting. And I played it and tried to pretend I was an actual paladin, and the group thought I was a paladin, but I was actually aligned with a dark god, an evil god or something. So I played an evil character and tried to pretend to be good, and then do things behind
as
the scenes.
all evil characters would.
Yeah, so
That might have been the same one because
it
Ben
got
was the
figured out.
first one who
yeah,
said
his first D&D.
he was
He's
like,
this doesn't make
why
sense."
this doesn't make sense.
I remember that, and I RP'd that I didn't know, but you're the only character having extensively long side meetings, like with the DM during breaks and like
Yeah, it takes a little bit of effort.
notes and hushed whispers and but I might have said DM. I RP'd it. That's what I meant to say. I role played it. That I didn't know because I sat there and I was like I had enough experience to know that, they're doing something dodgy over there, and I was talking about you guys, not the sound that just happened.
Oh.
And so they're doing something over there. They're up to something. Joe has a lot of black, but he's black. Like his horse is very black. He's wearing black armor, whatever. But he's a paladin. I'm like, I think I know what's going on here.
Yeah, that
The
might have been a dead
symbols are
giveaway.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that was fun because I role played it like my character doesn't know.
And that's what I like about it is, I mean, there are set rules in the game, and they've got, long multi-books, everything about the monsters, everything the DM needs to
Yeah.
know, and then, players, and then there's all these extra books you can buy and different things. But you can really make up your own thing. Like we made up that.
Yeah.
I made my own special swashbuckler class for one campaign we started. And that's, I guess, if we were going to talk about why we like D&D, I think that's really it. It's all written down, and there's rules for everything that support you, but really the end thing is up to the group, the DM, whatever you want to come up with, and play the game the way you want to play it. And the rules are a backbone that are advice. I think that's really cool about it.
Yeah, suggestions.
Yeah.
To something that could be really intense and just mental exercises of
Yeah, just
creativity.
here's some dice. Do whatever you want in this framework.
Yeah. I think D&D really captures why video games are so popular to so many people who really get into video games. And it's all about story. I mean, I definitely believe that narrative storytelling is is a fundamental aspect of us human beings, and things like this put you in a story. And for the DM, they get to create a story where you're with people that you like. Well, maybe not sometimes. I can't think of many.
What are you trying to say here?
No, none of you, obviously. But like you're with people, and you put them into that story, and you let them live it, and let them experience, and let them form it, and that's really exciting because it's a shared experience. It becomes something really interactive.
Yeah, to me, it's almost like the DM provides the pages and maybe like the chapter titles, and then the actual players are the ones that are writing the story as they go.
Yeah, that's a great analogy for it.
And I think that it's interesting and somewhat telling that when we just kind of, I noticed while we were talking about it, but some of our favorite memories and some of the first things we realized in D&D, we didn't really talk about, like, remember that time I rolled a D20 and killed like this orc with a awesome critical,
because it never happens.
Yeah, well, that's true. But I mean, it was more like these are the characters we remember, these are the stories and antics that we remember, and that's. I mean, the battles are fun while they're happening, but when you look back, like what you're really getting out of it is kind of that fun stuff.
Yeah, and they do a really nice job of feeding imagination too, from the books and the guidelines
with suggestions.
I mean, we flirted with rules constantly.
Yes.
And there were so many times where you'd see a piece of artwork in there. And, I know then there was one character where I just modeled my armor off of this one piece of artwork and just kept, I forget who was the DM for that, but I just kept harassing them saying, like, this is what I'm wearing right now. You're wearing studded leather. And I was like, this is it.
Let everyone know all the time whenever I do something, mention it.
Look at the picture. Tell them what I'm wearing. This is me, everybody. Yeah, and that's super cool that they give those, it's food for thought. It's food for your imagination. So cool.
Absolutely.
Is there anything anybody dislikes? I mean, I would say that sometimes it can get a little bogged down.
The pace is definitely the thing that kills it for me more often than not. Not that it's always killed, but I would assume out of the four of us that I enjoy D&D the least. D&D the least.
D&D.
Guess it depends.
Didn't.
Yeah, I just kind of fall out of enjoying it after a short amount of time, shorter than I would expect, but I have trouble staying focused, and I don't like when I'm having to sit there and listen to intense interrogations that I don't feel like are realistic, and it just for me in my head I just kind of create reasons why I don't believe this, and then you're out of it.
Oh, and you're out of it. Well, I think that also that sometimes in battles just trying to dig through all the rules to how to play everything, especially if you're just starting a new character and you don't know how to do it. It's sometimes slow.
Absolutely, and like spell casting.
Oh,
there's
so many spells. Yeah.
I mean,
it can be tough to keep track of.
It's funny because for the sake of ease, I feel like most people probably do this too. We just keep to the spells in the book, and yet, ironically, at the same time, it's so freaking complex. Everything that unless you're firing magic missile, you're gonna have to tell me what page you're on, and I'm gonna read that because I didn't memorize how touching grasp.
You didn't make flashcards.
Yeah, it's like I want to do reaching grasp of the fig tree, and it's like okay, what's the page?
Okay, Chris, where's that?
Yeah, exactly. Which book is that in that I don't own?
What book that some guy on the internet wrote? Is that in? Yeah, in
Spells of the Levant. Yeah. I assume.
And then you spend 10 minutes debating a nuance that just because you'll always stumble on something where you're like, well, this is a unique situation. What happens here with this case, because you run into those situations over and over. But yeah, I agree that a downside certainly is that it can get super bogged down in battle. Being able to fast track that is something that it can be good and bad. Like some battles are more important than others, but and also, I agree that there are times where you can take yourself out of it by starting to question like the reality of a situation. I mean, it just depends on how people approach the situation,
or just the situation. Like if your character tends to be more interested in what's going on than another character that just wants to go do whatever the next thing their character wants to do, then
Right.
it tends to drag on.
You start to have a little bit of clashing, and like, and you do run into problems where you have like, as a player, you want to do this, but as a character, you know your character should do this, and then you start to blur lines like of what moves the game along versus how much time do I take to.
And then you're having less fun because you're thinking about all of that.
Yeah, and then you basically get in your own head and start. So you definitely have to suspend.
Well, I think that's one nice thing about it being such a pervasive game is that it's influenced video games and, to a sense, I think other various games, tabletop games, but particularly video games, especially, there's direct video games using the system and then other games that use similar systems or just take liberty and go off in different directions.
I think they all stem from it.
Yeah, but I mean, you've got, like the Forgotten Realms games and Neverwinter games. I mean, Baldurs Gate. Some of our early video gaming was based on, even before maybe we even played D&D. I might have played Baldur's Gate before I played D&D.
What are these numbers? What's going on?
Yeah, that's actually interesting. And I don't think I thought of that.
That's probably true.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's true for me as well.
And I think you played Icewind Dale and then Neverwinter.
Icewind Dale too. Blowing up orcs.
But I mean, that's something that's interesting. I think the RPG aspects of D&D kind of built into many other video games, and that influence, whether good or bad or what indifferent. But I think it's been in a lot of different games.
Absolutely, I think that's become a mainstay of a lot of those games. You build something up, and it's not always you're this druid, pick a spell, like adventure capitalist. Yeah. There's some, you can like upgrade and level up and all these which is a super simple game, by the way.
Experience.
Just a progress bar simulator. And it's amazing how it just ekes its way in.
But it just latches on your brain.
And then you get games like Mass Effect
Right.
that blow it out of the water with like dialogue choices, and they make it, that's really storytelling.
It's one
that
big
you make your own
campaign with a similar system.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing that's funny is games still use, you got these numbers and you got, 5 or 6 main stats, and they all seem, and a lot of times they follow just like the D&D rules where the 18
even just the same.
Excellent. And I remember playing like Baldur's Gate, and you'd have the, like in the lower right, the information roll in window, and you just see the actual rolls and every roll that's happening that the game is doing for you, and that's also a testament to how actually playing D&D can drag along. But I remember seeing that just because I believe I did play my first real experience with that system was Baldur's Gate, which because I was the younger brother, so I had to go play it by myself. And just figuring out what these numbers mean and all these rules. But now it's all in the background, but that these roles are still going on. And sometimes I kind of miss having that information in certain games, because I'd love to see like what that role was or what my bonus was.
Yeah, what the map
night.
is showing up, spamming at the bottom of the screen.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think what's nice about that is that it goes through that and does it automatically, so you don't sit there and fiddle with the rules, and it takes that aspect out of it that slows down tabletop play.
Keeps the pace going, and just the overall. It's not that I need structure. I don't think that with D&D, that's exactly why a lot of times I flame out on it. But I think that a video game provides that structure that keeps the pace going.
It just streamlines it.
Keeps you not necessarily inside the lines, but keeps you moving in the right direction, and keeps things from being search this wall 10 times until you succeed at a search
Go
check,
to every
or
tile.
I know this
Search
guy
wall.
is holding information back, so I'm going to ask every single question I possibly can.
Yeah.
And it just, plus the dialogue. A lot of teams write a lot of really good dialogue, and BioWare was one of them with Baldur's Gate and
so good.
and a lot of their products, obviously. But dialogue is a huge thing for me. And it gets a little crazy when you're relying on other players to create it. So.
Yeah, we had some interesting experiences. That almost kind of broke the wall.
Yeah, I like what you just said, Jarv, because I think that's a big part of it. I think it's about limits, right? Because it's so, in all of the times that I was DM, everybody's so excited of freedom and it's open world and in D&D, and you get to do whatever you want. And then you get into that scenario, and a lot of people want limits. I don't know what to do. Like, I don't. What do you want me to do?
They're trying to
It's like,
find.
I thought you wanted to do whatever you want. You know, like I made a whole world.
I mean, campaign to campaign,
run.
you'll
Yeah.
have a group
go
that
run in the
takes
field.
it. In a certain situation, you'll have a group of characters and players that are in the right headspace, and they
Right.
take it in a really great direction. And sometimes you'll have a group where there's like the Wildcard who is, doing
Chris.
weird stuff. And,
Wildcard.
yeah.
Or who's your other friend who
Where things get derailed.
came in and he cut people's ears off and
Brian?
I don't remember his
No,
name.
that was Chris too. Chris was
no,
cutting people's.
it wasn't Chris. I don't think.
Chris loved mutilation afterwards.
Yeah, but even so, I mean, like even a game that's super open world like Skyrim, you have limits.
Yeah,
right.
One of the first things I did when I got to Windhelm was try to run to Morrowind, and you can't. I'm like, all right, limitation, got it. Bummer. I want to relive Elder Scrolls 3.
Yeah. Well,
But-
I mean, they can't code infinite possibilities.
No, they
really.
can't. But it's kind of
But-
refreshing too because you don't need to worry about anything outside those limits.
Yeah. So it's nice when they just, open world, they put so much into it that you can never see it all because it feels like it's, you have unlimited choices. You can go anywhere and everything. But it doesn't quite match, the real openness and,
Yeah.
no boundaries.
Kind of removes some
of D&D.
responsibility
Yeah.
to the player.
True.
Like you don't have to worry about the whole wide world.
You press W, you go forward.
Yeah, just
you
worry
see
about
things.
this.
Yeah. And that's kind of nice to change it up. And it's especially good, in the times we couldn't always get everybody together to play a campaign.
Yeah.
Schedules conflict, then you've got something to fall back on.
Our
Yeah.
childhood schedules that were so full of things.
Well,
to do.
I'm talking about more recently, but
Yeah, and then you grow up and everybody moves around. And,
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Get the band back together. So I'm gonna go totally off topic with a random question of the day.
Ooh.
All right, I'm gonna start with Dane on this one. Actually,
Bring it
so my
on.
random question of the day is favorite comic book character and why?
Oh man. Ever any comic?
Any comic ever and why? Why is the key here?
Okay. Yes, I have an answer right away.
I figured you would be the
So,
bet to
Favorite
start.
comic book character? Yes.
Yeah, definitely. There are some really good ones up there that I really, really, really respect. But I have to say, since I was a little kid and started reading comics, and little kid, I mean probably 7 or 8, it was Daredevil, definitely. So the new Netflix series has been just a freak fest of amazement for me. It's just so good, and they did it so well. I'm so happy because of the movie, and
Yeah, an episode 2
And how it
ending,
was
which
good.
I know Dan could go on about.
Yeah, for sure. But the why part of it was, I mean, it got dumped on my lap because what happened when I was younger, some of my older cousins were getting into college by that time, much older than me, and they just gave me all of their comics and boxes and boxes of Justice League, X-Men, Daredevil, Green Lantern, DC, Marvel across the board. And Daredevil, for whatever reason, always it felt unfair to me because as
Yeah.
a kid, he's totally natural. He becomes inhibited by the exposure to the chemicals, and he goes blind. But the story was so cool because it's this guy with this major flaw that he turns into a strength, and that's a nice lesson for a young kid to learn. And I sort of latched onto that, and I just like that. It was fine that he couldn't see because he made the world work for him, and it was awesome. He's one of the best fighters in the Marvel universe in hand-to-hand combat. All that stuff's great. But I think even more so, and I didn't even know that this was going on in my mind as a kid. It became something later where I was like, oh, this really, how is that fitting perfectly? Is that as a lawyer, he fought for social justice, and it wasn't about money or anything like that. And that's a really cool aspect to the Daredevil comics. Sometimes you don't even get Daredevil that much. It's maybe just like an information aspect to Daredevil, and it's focusing on Matt Murdock as the lawyer. And I really appreciated that sort of, you're following somebody's story in the real world while at the same time it's balanced out with this alter ego that can kick some serious ass, but he can also
Right.
take a case to trial on Kick-Ass as well.
Yeah.
Because he's super smart. So
Good
I really
at both
respected that
aspects
in
of
the
his life.
narrative. Yeah,
It's
love
not-
Daredevil.
Now he's got a great show.
Yeah, now he's got an
So now
awesome
you've
show.
got even more to be geeked out
Oh,
about.
I'm
like-
freaking out.
It's not always like you're just like put the suit on already.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh God. Surprise question. Game time decision.
I can narrow it down to two that I think.
Yeah, I
you
got
would
two
pick.
guesses.
Would it be Nightcrawler or Deadpool?
Yeah, that's what it would be.
I was going to go Nightcrawler or Gambit.
Ooh, he would be up there.
Gambit is one. Oh, God. All right. Pick one.
Daredevil beat up Deadpool once.
He would, wouldn't he?
What are you feeling right now?
Social
Just throw it out.
justice.
You can go. You can go with both.
I don't feel I know enough. All right. I'll say this first.
One of them's got an exciting movie coming up.
Oh yes. Oh God, the trailer was great. I'll say this. I am one of those people that I grew up knowing the lore of comic book heroes and watching cartoons and stuff, but didn't really read the comics themselves. So I'd be stepping. I feel like I'd be stepping on a lot of toes if I said Deadpool, because there's an aspect of Deadpool that I think you have to be pretty deep in the world of the comics to truly appreciate things, especially the breaking of the fourth wall.
Yeah.
I love that he does that and kind of touches on some absurd factors, like referring to a specific issue of something and of a comic book, and everybody around him thinks he's insane. And
And the Formation was a relationship with DC, or not a relationship, but like a
Oh yeah, it was a
it
direct,
was a DC Marvel,
almost a direct copy
thing.
of.
Yeah, which is cool. And that's always fun.
Yeah.
And then they made him a crazy person.
But I'm gonna go with Gambit.
Oh,
Nice.
okay.
I enjoy Gambit. I enjoy that he has both a special power and a martial prowess to him.
Bow staff or whatever.
Yeah, that he's got the staff and that he's got all kinds of abilities that he's grown up with and learned, like sleight of hand and roguish abilities.
Yeah, in the bayou.
How to cook Cajun food.
Yeah.
How to cook
Oh,
Cajun
yeah.
food, the accent,
That'd be a great ability.
and
I do like
The
Cajun
best
food.
Cajun food in the world.
and
Some gumbo.
and also, like, when I was a kid, it was just like, he has a staff. He just has a stick. Like, I mean,
I
that's
think I remember you like Donatello as well, so I think
Oh,
maybe there is
consistencies.
just something
yeah.
with staff that you just enjoy about characters that fight well.
I do, and I would say Dane's a huge
You had
fan
the
of
staff
staff
bug.
fighting.
I definitely enjoy that.
And that you would think that, that you're kind of the guy who likes to go towards something with like a staff fighting, and not usually I don't. But he did. Yeah, I would say he is favorite comic book.
I'm gonna go with Captain America.
Ooh.
I
Oh,
don't
yeah.
have extensive exposure to comics outside of childhood cartoons and the latest wave of movies that have come out.
All the huge hits.
But for me, I always look for that champion of good in things, and almost to a fault, to people that just are completely unrealistic in how good they are. But I love that. And
Yeah.
I probably because I feel like the world needs that, and it's
Yeah.
never going to
Yeah,
happen.
yeah, he really embodies that.
He
but,
does.
but he does.
And democracy and capitalism. No,
Mark. There's a little gray area there.
See, I would have.
I was just joking.
I would have thought you also had maybe the Hulk rated highly up there, but
The Hulk? Why you think? Because of my
I thought
red
for
hair
some
that
reason,
the
no, for
anger's
some
just
reason
ready
I
to
thought
come
you
out?
liked the Hulk.
So many connections.
I do enjoy the Hulk, but when you ask why, I wouldn't really have a very good answer to
'Cause
why
he's-
I like the Hulk, other than he smashes things
Yeah,
and it's pretty
and
badass.
that's fun.
Yeah.
But to be a favorite, you've got to have more substance than that, I guess.
And I would say that I look to Captain America for that because he's just that beacon of all that's good.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's a great choice.
yeah. So I grew up also not reading a lot of comics, which I think is going to be interesting because you read a lot of comics and you're going to have a lot
Yeah.
of insight there. Whereas I think the rest of us, I dabbled in X-Men a lot, especially because I like the cartoon. I read a lot of the comic books.
Yeah.
That theme sticks with you. So for me, it was definitely part of the X-Men because I really latched onto that early. Despite not, I got into it because of the show, not the comic books. But I would go with Wolverine because in the cartoon, I thought Wolverine's character was good, and I've kind of followed that. I think Hugh Jackman does a pretty decent job
he's
of it.
great.
He sort of embodies that now. But
He's awesome.
It predates that, at least, because I think if I had just seen the movies, he probably wouldn't be my favorite character. But originally, I think it was because he is such a badass. I mean, he's got claws, and this is some of the early kid stuff that you look at and you're like, that's awesome. But he wasn't just like, he did what was right or that he saw was right most of the time, but he was kind of brooding because troubled past kind of thing.
He's
went
an
against the grain.
anti-hero.
Yeah.
He's an anti-hero.
And I think I kind of do like the anti-hero.
Yeah.
Kinda. I mean, I see, Captain America. I like Captain America a lot, but I think the brooding hero, beyond just being like emo, I mean, they have to have a reason to be brooding. And
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it's because he can't stand
good backstory.
people that don't do things the right way.
Yeah.
According to him, which can get very blurred with other people.
That's true.
But
I mean, he's got strong
Quite
opinions.
subjective.
yeah, right. But I
like-
think people sometimes with Wolverine, what is frustrating about his fame these days is that people don't appreciate the complexity of Wolverine.
Yeah.
And he is super complex. In my opinion, maybe it's just because I've read a lot of X-Men, one of the more complex characters, because he'll consider stuff and he'll take things in and he might react rashly, but he'll adapt to wisdom. And, if it wasn't for Xavier, that probably wouldn't be the case. I don't know. I think Wolverine's super awesome. Do you know there was a scene? This is a spoiler, by the way. Is anybody going to have a problem with
What are
this?
you spoiling?
It's the Civil War arc.
Oh, that's okay.
Yeah?
Sure.
Nobody cares? Dan?
Yeah, go.
Go with
Okay. It probably won't ever
it.
happen.
Audience will care.
It's probably a ton of spoilers because there's context. I won't give context. How about that? He's hunting down this guy for vengeance, right? And this guy, his power is he can create a nuclear explosion, right? And kill people.
Sounds like
OP.
Heroes.
OP. Yeah, right? Kind of. And
Season
Wolverine
1.
hunts him down and he's about to confront him. And the guy's like, "Oh, Wolverine, really? You're not going to take me down." And he does his power and blasts, and Wolverine gets torn apart, right? Like he's totally demolished by this atom bomb.
Yeah.
And so the guy walks away chuckling to himself, and he calls up his friend. He's like, "You wouldn't believe who I just killed. I killed the one, I killed Wolverine." Then suddenly Wolverine forms behind him out of his healing power because he had some bit still going, apparently. And he formed together out of it and was just naked. And he was like, "Think again, bub," or one of his natural lines, and just totally stabs
Been
him. And
through
it's just
that
like,
before,
"Oh
bro."
man, you're so overpowered, but I love every minute of it because of your personality." Yeah, Wolverine's a great choice.
That's crazy.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and one of the reasons I brought that up as a random question is I think going forward, first it's fun to blindside all of you
Yeah.
with something that I know that you'll have
That
an
was
answer
fun.
for. But I think going forward, as we do more podcasts, even that some of us haven't read a lot of comics, we have a lot of interest in the comic book world and the movies and the TV shows and the cartoons and stuff. And
Yeah.
you have extensive knowledge, so I'm sure it's going to come up more.
Not compared to.
I wanted to
Many.
spread us out a little bit from, we've covered some of the bases of interests, but just to branch off on a completely different topic. Anyways, there'll be more.
Yeah.
There'll be more to look
And
forward
there's so
to.
many good comics out there besides Marvel too, right?
Yeah. I mean, we'll
Watchmen.
cover DC
Perchance.
and Watchmen. Oh man. So and TV
I
shows
didn't
that are
even
out now.
think about that. I should have said Rorschach.
Yeah.
Well,
I almost brought Rorschach
maybe
up
next
as
time.
potential.
No takesies, backsies.
But we can save that for episode 4 maybe, and we'll catch you next time or the time after. Hopefully the time after that as well. See ya.
Goodbye.
See ya.